I did a live Q&A on Instagram on how to survive and thrive through architecture school. I know your time is valuable, so what I did below in the bio, I put timestamps with the questions that were asked, along with some raw, unedited answers that you guys can get my full attention from. And from there, you guys can choose what suits you the best. If you guys enjoy this video, and make sure you guys hit the like, subscribe button. Let's do it.
And, awesome. It's my pleasure. Austin, tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, how did you get into architecture, and what are you currently focused on?
Well, I'm here located in the United States, Florida. I got involved in architecture when I was 18, a long time ago, but it kind of stemmed from just the curiosity of just how things are made, Legos, just building things, and it kind of one thing led to another. And next thing you know, I'm involved in the industry. Went to architecture school, graduated. Now I'm working in the industry for several years right now, and my main focus is, as things have evolved, we're kind of pushing green architecture. So that's been a focus the last couple of years. I know with the push for EV, environmentally friendly stuff, with the as you guys probably see in the United States, a lot of presidential shifts are going on. So things are becoming more environmentally conscious. So that's becoming the new focus over the last couple of years, is providing buildings that have minimal impact on the environment, that are environmental friendly, rain harvesting, solar harvesting, basically using the elements around us and to try and leave a positive impact on the world as opposed to a negative one.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Austin, you're an architecture school graduate now. Architecture is this super competitive, challenging and stressful course. So tell us 5 things you wish you knew before you joined architecture school.
5 things I wish I would have known before joining architecture school. Well, the first one is collaborating with teammates. I think it's very important that you get to know your classmates really well, collaborate as a team. A lot of times you see people picking off in corners one by one. The reason being is because when you're in the actual industry, it's a team collaborative effort. And when you collaborate with your classmates, you never know who's going to be your next boss, your next coworker.
Absolutely.
It's really important to build connections while you're still in school. Another thing that I wish I would have known in school is how important sleep is. When you're in architecture school, I'm sure you know it gets kind of crazy at sometimes. Sleep, even if it's a couple hours, and I know a lot of students that pulled all-nighters, and as a result of it, their quality of works lacked, presentation skills lacked, and the professors noticed it the next day. So I think it's really important to get your sleep, even if it's a couple hours. It's really important as well. Another thing that I wish I would have known in architecture school is, this is a good one, is be more collaborative with the professors. They're not your enemies, they're your friends. And a lot of times when you guys don't see eye to eye, I mean, this happens a lot of times where professors, you guys just don't see eye to eye because you're learning, you're growing. I think look for them for more guidance. Don't be scared to ask them questions because they have several years of experience. I think it's really good to pick their brains as opposed to try and be on the opposite side and let me just try to pass the class or whatever. Pick their brains, ask a question or two. Hey, how does this work? And you never know. Like I said, it's connections at the end of the day. Maybe it's your future boss, maybe a coworker. You never know. So another thing that I wish I would have known in architecture school, let's see. That's a good question. I think I did a video. Let me see real quick. I did a video on my YouTube. Maybe I'm just having a brain fart real quick. Give me a second. Let's see. I'm having a brain fart right now. It was sleep. I talked about sleep. Talked about collaborating with classmates. I don't really know at the point right now. Maybe you got something that you found helpful during your architecture school career. Maybe you can help me out here.
Yes, so I actually studied interior design, but architecture and interior design are very closely related. For me, one thing I learned after graduating was that it's so important to reach out to people. Like, I know it might be very difficult or even, challenging, if you're shy, then it's not easy for you to approach people. But I think broadening your network is the key to landing a job, even in difficult times. and being kind to people. Like, you never know who you might end up working with, or even if
Right.
you keep in touch with someone, you never know, they might refer you to someone. So I think that is extremely important. And definitely sleep, something I myself, I'm guilty of this.
Hmm.
I wouldn't sleep at all. And you know it's not good for you. Like, trust me on this. I think pulling all-nighters, I know when you have a lot of workload, it's not easy, but sleep is so important, because it's going to affect your quality of work. Even if you get things done, the quality won't be the same. But if you
Right.
get sleep, and if you have like a proper healthy schedule where you're exercising, and let's say, to put it very raw, like having a life, I think work-life balance is really
Right.
important. So
I
that's just going
agree.
to improve your work. That's what I learned.
I've also just
And
remembered something is which is really important. Is I think is a huge shift in my career was working through architecture school. A lot of people, what they do is they do school and then they work. They don't mix the two. And what happened was when I was in architecture school at a young age, around first year, I was already working at a firm doing the bare minimum. But the fact that I worked in a firm opened the door of possibilities for other work. And I think like I knew a lot of kids in my class that they would just work. I mean, they would do school and they'd work at like Office Depot or like at a local store. I'm trying not saying Office Depot, a local store just to get the bills paid. But instead of working at a firm, so when they graduated, they had no experience. So even if it's like the littlest thing, what I did is I worked at a firm. I worked for free. I went there at 18. I said, hey, I want to work for you just so I have experience, just so I have that name. And it actually, if I didn't do that, my career would be backtracked several years. I went there work for free while I was in school, even if it's part-time, I mean, summer, anything. So working and then use that to leverage yourself throughout school. I mean, even if it's like side jobs, part-time, whatever the case may be, it's important to integrate the two and have that experience. So when you graduate, you're not just fresh out of school. You could say, hey, I worked at a firm a couple of weeks, whatever the case may be, but it's better than starting from zero. And that was probably the most important thing, the hugest, like if I had to take one lesson, take that and run with it. Even if you don't have a portfolio, make a portfolio, reach out to firms, whatever the case, you can figure it out. If you want it, you'll figure it out. You got to get in there and knock on some doors, email, cold call. I mean, like the whole 9 yards. And even if it's like free stuff, just get your name under that firm, and it'll open a ton of possibilities.
I absolutely agree with you on that. I think you have to knock on at least 10 doors for 2 or 3 to open.
10, you
And
got to knock on 100.
yes.
As many as you need. It's you got to push. You can't push. I mean, you're gonna get the first 10. You're gonna get probably all zeros. When I was working at a firm right out of college, I didn't want to work there. I hated it. I worked there for 2 weeks, and it was the worst time of my life. And what I did was I went on Google and I found firms within 30 miles, and I found over like 35 firms, and I just emailed them, called them, and they all declined me except one. And I didn't even work. So you got to you got to go after everything. You can't just go 10. You got to keep going until you figure it out.
Absolutely agree with that. I think you really have to reach out to people. And honestly, at times, there are people willing to help you as well, but you have to put yourself out there. And like you said,
Hmm.
knock on at least 100 doors.
At least
Yes,
100 doors.
yes, for sure. So, Austin, like I mentioned, architecture school can be very challenging. It's a very competitive environment. You're constantly hustling and
Hmm.
trying to get things done. There's so much happening, and students spend so much time in their studios. So tell us, what are some challenges that you frequently faced while you were in architecture school, and how did you tackle them?
I think time management. That answers that life balance. Time management was a thing that I figured out really early on, was that you got to manage your work life, your personal life, your school life, like basically dividing that up and schedule it. I mean, if you need to literally do hour by hour of your day and just schedule out. I mean, if you have class from 8 to 12, then you schedule your lunch and you schedule studio time, schedule work time, study time. I mean, time management is key, even include sleep time. So that was a really big thing that I saw as things got competitive, to really shift the degree of, I guess you'd say, your position in the lead. It was just to time manage yourself, that you have enough time to complete the task that you got to do. So if you got to finish a model and drawings, make sure you give yourself this amount of time to finish this and this amount of time to finish, and you got to get it done. And when you block out your times, you're not worried or stressed about other things. You're like, okay, at this for these next 2 hours, I'm working just on the model, and you can focus purely on the model, and then it's up to you to get it done. But if you block out your sectors of the day, it makes things a lot easier. You're not thinking about what other stuff you got to get done because you just go, okay, after 12 o'clock, I look at my book. All right, now I got to do this. Let's do this. It's just, there's no thinking involved. It's just, you already pre-plan your day, you're pre-plan your week, that it's just produce, produce, produce. And that can help you levitate to the next level.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Do you also think that, a lot of students, they often, suffer with anxiety as well, because it can be a little too overwhelming. So how do you think students can actually reduce the level of anxiety they have?
The level of anxiety, I think, reach out for help. Don't be scared to ask your classmates, friends, family, and don't try to bottle it up. If you're having trouble with anxiety, whatever the case may be, there's ways to handle it, and reaching out to help. Some people exercise, they feel better if they exercise. Some people like to talk to other people. Some people do it by music. I mean, there's several ways. Whatever works for you, you got to find what works for you. But if you're having, let's say, pre-presentation anxiety, maybe you don't go first, you go last, or you watch other classmates present and you watch other classes present. You see how things are going, just so you're not the first one. You kind of just, I think that's the best way is seek out for help and see what other students are doing, because you guys are all in it together. It's not just one versus all. You guys are all on the same path to graduate and pursue, your career. So you reach out to your classmates, because everyone's going to do the same thing. It's you guys are a group. Don't try to do it by yourself.
That's really true. I think it's very important to reach out for help and not take things too seriously as well, because at the end of the day, you're a human. You cannot do everything in one day. And, I think it's good to take a moment to just calm down. So thank you for sharing again. Knowing all you know today, how do you think budding architects can survive architecture school? Because some actually, it's architecture schools are actually really hard, and let's face it, that's the truth. Not everybody can go through so many years of all-nighters and putting so much work in the studio. So how do they survive architecture school, and not only survive, thrive in architecture school?
This is a good question, because in the first year of architecture school, we had about like 50 kids in our class, or 50 or like 75 kids. And by the time I graduated, it was about like 10 or 15. So the drop-off rate's really significant. You see people halfway through figure out it's not for them, or they fail out, or life happens. So it's kind of crazy that when it gets tough, you have to like fall back on what brought you there in the beginning. Like, why am I doing this? When you want to not only survive but thrive, you got to figure out, why am I doing this? Like, what's driving me to go forward? So, when people are doing it, oh, I want to graduate architecture school and do all stuff. There's gonna be nights where it sucks. Like, it's just the reality of things. But that's when you look back and say, okay, this is why I'm doing it. I want to achieve this goal. You look back on those hard times, and this applies to any industry, whether it's like becoming a doctor, a lawyer. You have that inner drive. So some people want to become architects, some people want to become doctors. Like, if I was trying to become a doctor and things started getting rough, I don't have that drive to do it, so it's not going to work for me. You'll figure that out. But when you go through architecture school, it opens not only just the door of architecture, but interior design, engineering. I mean, like, it opens, developing real estate. It opens a ton of doors, and you start to see that as you go through the process. So I wouldn't worry about it. That's why I encourage people to pursue the career path, because as you're going through it, you realize things about yourself. You figure things out, and you develop curiosities and interests and stuff. So those people, the 50 people that started and the 10 that graduated, those other 40 people, they're not doing nothing. They've learned something in the process. They figured out, this is not for me, but maybe I want to become an interior designer. I want to do this. So it stirs the creativity in the mind, and it creates opportunities in the future. So it's a really important to fall back on what you know, fall back what's driving you, and that will ultimately push you in the right direction. You'll find out halfway through the process if it's for you or not. And then when you're halfway through and you realize it's for you, then you double down on it and you keep going.
Awesome. This reminds me of a quote as well. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. So your passion is what drives you to get through the hard journey. Awesome.
100%.
So
It's when it gets tough is when you start to really realize if it's for me or not. That's when you really find out the truth. And that you find out a lot about yourself too. It's not just in the career, and it's just anything, any career path, anything in life. If you want it bad enough, you'll figure a way to get through it, and you'll do it. If not, then that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but it'll push you in another direction. So there's nothing wrong with being redirected.
yes. So Austin, the entire world is dealing with the pandemic right now, and
Hmm.
last year has been so challenging for all those who graduated and even those who are still in school because, the unemployment rates have just gone up, and people are working from home, and there are lockdowns still happening even this year, a
Hmm.
lot of restrictions as well. So how can current architecture students or graduates increase their chances of getting hired in such an uncertain time? What advice would you give to them?
This is a unique situation because when I was in school, you're in person. So now we're in a situation where everything is online. So if I was in architecture school right now trying to figure out, or I just graduated trying to figure out how to get a job, what I would do personally was, what I would do is double down on my skills. Like I would learn the programs better. I would create a portfolio. I would reach out to firms and say, hey, I would just start emailing, calling, and just, I mean, like, don't harass them, but you want to reach out to a bunch of people and just say, hey, any way that I can help you guys, whether it's, social media management, AutoCAD work, Revit work, Rhino work, Lumia, I mean, renderings, I'll do renderings for free, whatever the case may be. If you do free renderings, you're now in this firm's system. They understand who you are. So let's say you do a free rendering, let's hypothetically, we'll do a free rendering for your work. And then, I know times are tough. You're doing a free rendering. Next thing you know, they need some help on a project. They're going to most likely reach out to you than somebody else that they don't know. You're already like familiar with them. You would double down on skills, reach out to firms, build your portfolio, find a way to differentiate yourself right now at a time like this. Reach out to people. It goes back to the doors. It's just, you got to go out and just, the more contacts equals more contracts. You got to really start getting more connections. I know it's tough, but you got to figure out ways to do it. Emails, maybe you Uber Eats a coffee to them, or you drop by you stop by their office sometimes, say, hey, can I just do a meeting? Maybe it's a Zoom meeting. I'm doing research. Just get creative. When you put your back against the wall, you start to think of things differently. Like, if it comes to life, when you're comfortable, you're not going to think of these things. But let's say, hey, I need to find a job within a week. Like, give yourself some pressure, and when you put some pressure on your mind, you're going to start thinking, okay, I got a week to figure out a job. What do I got to do? All right, I got to start. Let me just find firms. The brain starts to move a little differently as opposed to, I'll figure it out sometime this week or next month. So give yourself some pressure, double down on your skills, and reach out to a lot of people, and you'll see you'll find out real quick if you can make it or not. And that's the point here. Either you're going to swim or you're going to sink. So you got to get down to the nitty gritty and do it. But I think everybody can do it if they push for it hard enough. You just gotta. I can't do it for you. You got to do it for yourself and people out there. You got to push for it.
I think that's great advice and very insightful as well.
Thank you.
I feel like, so many graduates are struggling right now, and this is definitely great advice for them. So, Austin, we've been getting a lot of questions. I'm just going to read them for you.
Okay.
So, we've got a question that says, care to share what drove you?
What drove me?
Yeah.
This is kind of it started like when I was young, playing with like Legos, toys, Legos. I really enjoyed like creating things. And then I would go to the bookstore with my parents and stuff. They have like a lot of books where they would show you things, how they're like, it'd show you like a car cut in half, and it'd show you how things are put together. So that always kind of like how things work, like how things are put together. So as I'm growing up, my parents like, you're gonna be an architect, you're gonna be an engineer, architect. And then as I got older, I realized I didn't want to be an engineer. No offense to any engineers in here, but I just didn't want to do that. I was so curious how things were put together. And that's kind of what one thing led to another. And then the final thing that sealed the deal was that when I was in architecture school, I was in the second year, I wanted to quit. I hated school. I was like, I don't like school at all. This is not. So what happened was when I was working at a firm, I saw what things were outside of school. And I realized what things were outside of school. I realized that this is what I love, but I realized I'm in school, so I got to get through school, but to get to the part I love, because no offense, school is not my forte, but the outside of school stuff is what I love the most, and that's what really grabbed me when I saw, okay, this is school, but then there's the real life aspect, and the real life aspect was what I really wanted. That's what kind of drove me through the school process and realizing that, hey, I got to get through this to get to here, and now that I'm here, I'm where I want to be, and I wouldn't want on any other way. It's the best, honestly.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I think that's so relatable because when I was in school, I would totally hate it and I wouldn't have so much fun. But when I was interning, I was having the time of my life. I realized that, okay, this is what I love. And even if school might not be what you really like, the world outside is very exciting. So that's something to look forward to for sure.
Right.
And I'll be going through other questions as well. So just
Go
give
ahead.
me a minute.
But don't forget the school part. You still gotta do the school part. Don't give up on that part. You need that part. So don't throw it away. But it's part of the process.
Yes. So another one says that the problem is when you're supposed to make the choice, you don't have the knowledge to create that drive. You just randomly choose. Thus, the days that you feel down, you don't have that thing. Okay, that's just a comment. Sorry about that. And there's another one that says, what year of school do you really start building up a portfolio?
Day one. Don't wait. Like, don't wait at all. Like everyone's like, oh, after I graduate, I'll maybe start like today. Like, why are you gonna wait? The more you build, the more you have. It's better. You want to make it as best as you can. So why are you gonna wait? I mean, yeah, you want to wait till more projects, but build it as you go. Maybe every 3 months, every 6 months, or something like that. But start today, and then it's gonna be a work in progress. It's never gonna be perfect, and you'll see as like the time goes on, and you go back and fix it. It's gonna continually change. If you look at portfolio from day one, and then if you were to change it, and then if you look at a portfolio from day one, and at the end of the year, it's gonna be completely different because you're gonna change and see things differently every single day. And you're gonna, you want to show other people and get their feedback. You want to get it reviewed. So I would start building your portfolio like yesterday, like today. Like start building it, even if it's a little bit. Get the process rolling. Start getting projects together, photographs, sketches, all that stuff, and it'll just help along the line.
Thank you
Start
for
today.
sharing.
Do it today.
Yeah, start today. So
Start today.
Austin, a lot of students think they should actually work on their portfolio during their last year, but that's not the case, like you just mentioned. What advice would you give to students who are actually working on their portfolio right now and want to know, like, what kind of projects should they actually add in their portfolio? So what kind of portfolios are actually really impressive? Like, what do employers really look for when they hire a
That's the key
graduate?
question right there. Like, what is this portfolio going? Like, what do we do in the portfolio? We're not for me. It's for a boss. It's for a firm. So you're gonna sell yourself to a client, to a boss. So you're gonna go to this firm. You're gonna say, hey, my name is Austin. I want to work for your firm. Here's my portfolio. Put yourself in his shoes or her shoes. They're a business person. They're running a business. They're running a firm. They want to see things that will help generate income for the business. Obviously, they want to have the creativity, but they want to see things that will help the firm make money, because that's how, if the firm doesn't make money, the firm's out of business and they can't pay you. So you got to find things that will attract them. And what I mean by that is they want to see creativity. So they want to see, you have that idea of, the eye for creativity, presentation skills. If you can't present the portfolio in a clean, efficient, simple manner, then how is it going to translate into their work when you got clients coming in? If the boss doesn't understand it, how are the clients going to understand it? Because me and you think, and saying this, architecture people, engineers, we think, very schematically, but for someone who doesn't look at floor plans every day, they have no idea what they're looking at. And there's nothing wrong with that, but just because we deal with it every day. If you put me in a doctor's office, I don't know any of the equipment because they do it every day. But so you have to, in a sense, present it to them, but be conscious that if he doesn't even understand it, how are other people going to understand it? Or you got to make it very, very simple, clean, get to the point. Obviously have some sort of creativity makes you stand out, but it's almost like telling a story. If the boss doesn't understand the story, then no one's going to understand the story. So I see a lot of people with their portfolios, they get like all these crazy designs and stuff and all this crazy good. I mean, it looks cool, but it's sometimes overwhelming. So sometimes less is more. And I think in a scenario like this, sometimes less is more. It can be
Absolutely.
better.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. That was really, really insightful. And I really want to thank you for being my guest today. It was so fun talking to you and
No, thank
learning
you for
all of
having me. I
this.
appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much, Austin. And thank you to everyone who stick through the entire conversation. We'll be coming up with more live sessions this year. And thank you so much for your time once again, Austin. It was
Thank
really
you. Thank you for
nice
having me. And
having this
stay safe.
conversation with you.
Stay safe. 2021 is going to be a better year. 2021 was old, but it's going to be a better year for everybody. So stay positive. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me, ask me anything. I'm more than happy to help you guys.
Yes, and also Austin happens to have a YouTube channel, so you definitely have to go to his profile, give him a follow, check out the link in his bio, and subscribe.
Woo!
Yes,
There you go.
thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you so much. I hope you all have a great start to the year, and thank you, Austin. Bye bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.